Hello, welcome, happy new moon. Thank you for joining me for this video today. My name is Sabrina. This is going to be maybe a 30 or 40-minute practice to help you move through this new moon. I'll share some um, thoughts about the new moon, some information about the different planetary alignments going on right now, and then mostly just give you some gentle, restorative, I'll try to make them very accessible moves and poses and practices that we can do over these days as this moon transitions. I will be referring to some notes, so pardon me for looking away, and just want to give credit where it is due. I'll be reading notes that just sort of all of my information coming together today from the Chani app, the Pattern app, and this book, which is The Inspired Yoga Teacher by Gabrielle. So I'll link these in the description below. We're going to start today in a comfortable seat if a seat is possible for you. You can also always just lay down. Any position where you can just let yourself be fully supported. So if that's in a seat or on the floor, it's all good. I can feel my brain, like I always struggle a little bit with processing, and just like my mind never feels super clear right before a new moon and right before a full moon. So I wanted to record this in time so that I can get it to you before tomorrow morning. So I'm recording this Tuesday, and the moon is going to be in its emptiest in the morning tomorrow. So I wanted to get this out, but forgive me because I'm all sorts of human today, and I'll, as usual, probably make some mistakes. So, but we're going to start in a seat or a comfortable position. Just let yourself get rooted, meaning feel whatever is supporting you. If you're in a seat, feel the sit bones, those pointy parts of your seat, and let them just kind of drip downward. Let them get heavy. You might feel each sit bone is a little different than the other, so let it be. Let each side be what it is. Just let each side soften and get heavy as much as you can. If you're on your back, scan from your head all the way down to your hips, maybe to your heels, and feel every part just dropping in. If you're in your seat, let your legs, belly hang out, get heavy. Let the spine stack up, heart resting in the chest, shoulders resting on the chest and on the back. We're starting with a deep breath. So when I say deep breath, I don't mean to suck it up into the chest. We're going to work to strengthen our diaphragm, which means to draw the breath down into the belly on the inhale, maybe even filling up the pelvic floor. So if you can imagine, maybe you imagine a light, or maybe you just are into anatomy and you can picture the anatomy, but let the breath come in and down. And it might not go very far. We have a tendency to suck the breath up. So there's a reason we practice, and it'll take time to strengthen this. But just take a nice soft breath into the belly if you can. See if you can fill your belly up like a little balloon. Let it all out. And if you feel tension start to build up somewhere else, maybe the jaw starts to get tight, or you start to clench your pelvic floor, or hands get tight as you focus, see if you can let all of that soften again too. As you exhale, see if you can let the exhale all the way out. So a lot of time we're interrupting the exhale with the next inhale. We are always in a hurry to get to the next thing. Can you just savor and really allow the full breath all the way out of your system? Feel that emptiness that's created when you let the breath out, that vacuum. And then let a nice big inhale in again. This time we're going to hold it at the top. So fill up and then just hold it. Pause softly, soft tongue, soft jaw. And let it out softly through your nose if you can. Like a stream, let it keep going. And soft inhale. Holding at the top whenever you're full. And just 3 or 4 more big breaths if you can through the nose. Letting jaw stay soft the whole time, tongue soft, roof of the mouth soft, if you can imagine that. Letting that space in the roof of the mouth spread out in all directions. Keep breathing, focusing on the exhale, letting it all out, filling up what you can, kind of expanding into all of the crevices of your ribs and your belly and your spine, letting the breath massage your body and releasing it again. You can keep breathing like this for a bit longer if you'd like. If you feel scatterbrained like I did before we did that, or stressed in any way, you might just stick with the breath a little longer, just continuing to fill up where you can. Hold, let it all out. And when you're ready for movement, we're going to start with what's called Sufi circles. So we're just, I think of it as stirring the pot. So we start at the hips, let the hips tip towards one knee. We want to kind of root the sit bone though. So we're kind of tipping at an angle, but we're staying rooted. And I'll lean my heart towards that knee and then over to the other, tipping at the hip too, pulling my pelvis back as I go back and my spine curls back. My shoulders can curl forward here. Tipping, kind of feeling all 4 corners of my pelvis here. So I tip forward into the front leg, over to the front of the other leg, and then back into that back sit bone, over to the other side. Heart is exploring the chest the same direction as the hips are going. So I'm kind of feeling out a big square throughout the chest and the hips. A couple more times here as you just feel it out, and then you might start to go a little quicker. So you're going to keep going in the same direction. It might slow down. You're going to start to match this with your breath. So the next time you're forward, let an inhale come. Pause until an inhale comes and take it in as you swish over. And then as you tuck into the back and roll across the back, let the breath out. In at the front, out at the back. And you can go faster with this. I tend to like a slower practice. It's going to calm the nervous system down. If you go slower, you can move a lot of energy. If you go faster, it's a kind of a kundalini thing to move a little faster here. So it depends on what you need and what you're feeling today. Don't search for what is right. Search for what feels best for you and what serves you best, okay? You might start to feel a bit more mobility in the pelvis and the spine as you keep rolling. And as you continue going here, we're going to just kind of slow it down on this side. And letting that circle get smaller and smaller. At the top, let's just draw 3 or 4 circles on the ceiling with the head. And then in the other direction, moving the head in spiraling, and then we start to go the other way. So leaning the chest forward, stirring your pot the other way. Go slow here as we start in this other direction, just because we've moved a lot. We just sort of lubricated everything in one direction, but it's going to take a little time here in this direction too. So let it go slow as you feel all of those edges. Maybe you don't feel some, maybe each side feels really different than the other. That's really normal. Your two sides are different. So don't try to make them the same. Just trust your body's wisdom and practice listening, feeling what you feel and honoring it, not trying to overcome or conquer your body, but to take care of it. So as you keep going with this side, sharing a little reading, when you feel complete, like you have balanced both sides, you'll pause in the center and you might place your palms up, maybe touching some fingers, maybe place your palms down. You can also create a circle at your pelvis where you create a little circle to keep your thumbs upright. As ether starts to take visible form in the world, she appears as air. Her movement seeps and infuses into our bodies through our breath and swirls within our energetic pathways. She is carried into the tumbling leaves and the bustling clouds. Her breath is the voice of our soul. Vayu represents all movement in the body, from the beating heart to the workings of the digestive system, from our coursing blood to the articulation of bones and joints. Vayu feeds and circulates energy freely while overseeing our nervous system. Too much air in the body can create an overexcited temperament, diarrhea, and hypermobility, whereas too little is displayed as an overall sluggishness in the circulatory system. Our thoughts, ideas, emotions, and creativity are carried on the currents of the air element. Air is related to skin and hands and touch. Like a breath of air that knows no boundaries, we are able to touch others with love, and we are open to receiving it when this element is in balance. Air is the spontaneous force behind our life and dwindles as we look toward our later years, retirement and lightening our load. Without her energy, there is no life. So as we move some air, move some vayu throughout our whole body here, we're going to come back to the center. So the reason air is the element of the day is because this new moon is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is an air element, and so that's sort of ruling this new moon. As you come back into your center seat, we're going to find a twist. So further kind of squeezing out some of this vayu, helping it move in our digestive tract and our spine. The key to a twist is to actually twist the spine and not just dislocate or pull joints out of place where they don't belong. So for example, our shoulder joint can really go far out of the position where it's healthiest. You know, we can take it almost so far. It has so much range of motion. And so a lot of times when folks want to twist, they meet some resistance in their spine, but their ego is like, I can do it. And so they'll reach that arm way back, and that's not actually creating any twist in this additional twist in the spine. It tends to create a greater crunch in the back of the shoulder. And so we're just stealing from one part of the body in order to pretend that we have it in another part, and actually avoiding creating the space where we need it. And so honor those boundaries. Keep your belly button forward. Hips are pointed forward like headlights. And we're going to reach across with one arm and grab the other hip, okay? So it's like we're pulling this hip forward toward that arm. And then I'm going to take my other hand to my chest or to the other shoulder. The shoulder can be nice for the mind, but I think it tends to close us down, and we want to keep our heart leading. We want to keep our heart up. So belly button forward, heart lifted, and starting to move in that direction of that hip that we're pinning forward. So you'll notice Even hypermobile me, I can't go very far because most of us have some good limitation in the spine. That's a good thing because we don't want the spine to be too mobile. We want the spine to be a trunk to support our upper body, right? And so as we slowly rotate around, maybe adding the head, looking over the shoulder, make sure that you're not crunching down to create more twist or crunching the shoulder back. Keep head tall. Eyes might look back. You've got 6 little muscles that control your eyeballs, so you might let them get a little release as well. Take a nice big breath again down into the belly space. It might be more challenging here, and that's a good thing. It means we're creating greater strength and capacity, space for that diaphragm and for those lungs, the breath. Letting the head come forward first, nice and slow, unraveling this twist. And once the heart is facing forward again, go ahead and take some shoulder circles here. Make sure that anything that might be used to sacrificing itself for your movement can come back into place and get some love here. So we just moved a bunch of different joints in one direction. We're going to ask them all to move in the other direction now, which is, it's like twice as much distance now because we had to come back all the way from here. So go nice and slow. Don't expect much from this side. The spine might kind of still feel a little crunch to the other direction. So reaching across for the hip, reaching for the shoulder or the heart, whatever allows you to stay upright in the chest. And then slowly starting to spin those vertebrae around the spine, or your rib cage around your vertebrae, that's it. Those lower vertebrae in your lumbar spine by your hips, those are triangular shaped, so they aren't designed to twist very far. And then as we get into the upper chest, they become shaped a little differently and allow for a little bit more movement. For most of us, what that means is we do most of our work then from that upper body, and that's where we have most tension. So now we get kind of sticky in those spaces that are supposed to be mobile, and then we don't have as much mobility where we need it. Letting the head find a little more twist, giving the side just as much time to really feel and articulate itty bitty little bit of movement, like 3 or 4 degrees, not even, in each vertebrae. Let that breath really travel into the belly. All the way out. And the head returns first. No rush. Stay as long as you need to feel complete on both sides. And shake it out with those shoulders. So we're heading into child's pose. If you love down dog, you might play with that to transition here. But we're going to land in a pose where we end up kneeling on our knees. Now that may not be for you. If you're like, nope, no ma'am, absolutely not, I'm not doing it, that's totally fine. You can stay on your seat and just put your feet out in front of you. And give yourself a nice curl in the spine. Arms can come underneath. You can drop head. If the nose or cheeks don't know where to go, or you can't breathe or anything, you might bring a block here and just kind of softly let the hands rest on it until your forehead has a place to rest. And if you want a little release through the shoulders that we get in child's pose, you could also take your hands and clasp them. And once you hang your head, you could bring the hands to the back of the head, something like this. And what this does is it puts the shoulders in a position where we have this sort of win-win alignment. So in this position, we have that joint that has so much mobility, so much so that that ball can kind of rub and run into a lot of the other bone that's in that. So the ball that's in the socket, the ball and bone in the arm can run into the socket essentially. So in this position, we get that forward motion, and the ball has a nice slide and glide in that joint and nothing to run into. So there's optimal movement and there is possible movement, okay? And there's no good or bad movement. There's just movement that's going to serve you or movement that may cause you harm. There's some risk and reward to everything, and you have to kind of feel it out and listen to your own body to find out what's going to be best for you. But when you sweep arms in this direction, you get that win-win alignment. So then you can get length through these muscles without crunching this neck area. Okay. So maybe you're kneeling like this. If you're going onto your knees, I'm going to crawl onto my bed because I don't have the space to demonstrate this here. But if you're on the floor, if you're on a hard floor like this, putting a blanket under your knees is going to be a really wise choice. Other ways to use blankets is if maybe you don't kneel all the way back, so maybe crunching the knees this far doesn't feel good. You could put a blanket here behind your seat. So this is going to create a little cushion so you don't fold into your knees too much. You also don't have to fold back at all. You can keep your hips right up over your knees and pour your heart forward this way. Okay. Another thing is when you sit back, if you do sit all the way back, maybe the ankles get really crunched. So you could put another blanket underneath the feet and let the toes or the ankles bend a little bit, and that's just going to make it a little softer. I'm showing this to you, but it's not going to be quite as comfortable for me to keep these, so I'm going to take them out. That's something you might do. Okay. Another thing with child's pose, maybe having legs wide. This is technically child's pose with legs wide. If you bring them together, it's embryo pose. Both work here. But maybe as you come down, there's like a little ways before you reach the floor. What we don't want is to kind of crunch and curl here. We want a little extension through the spine if we're in this pose. So you might put a block underneath your chest, maybe 2 blocks. And that's going to allow my spine to stay nice and long, and then my neck can curl forward. And I still have all this space, nothing's getting crunched, and everything has room to breathe. The big thing here is your head is resting on something, either the floor or a block, so that the head is fully supported. And as much as you can, no effort. So give yourself as much support, adjust as much as you need until you can find some ease, and we'll rest here for a little while. This will be a more restorative class, and so we're going to stay in this pose for a couple minutes. If you start to feel discomfort or any pain, come on out of it. You can always come onto your back and curl up or come into that kneeling posture again. So arms maybe stretching forward, maybe in that clasp position. They can also go back behind you. You could put hands right under shoulders and let elbows sneak back here. The only thing I don't suggest is putting hands under the forehead, just because, once again, we sort of shorten a part of the joint and let this bone come into a not so optimal position. And so you might end up with more tension in one area just to create support in another area. So instead, you might find maybe some more support for your head. I think support on the forehead is going to serve you best. The lower it goes, the harder it gets to breathe. So support for the forehead, tuck your chin down. Don't let your chin sneak up. We want lots of space in the back of the neck. And we'll settle here for a few minutes. Just let your body get heavy. Feel again where you are fully supported. Let the roof of your mouth relax. If you drool here, you're doing really great. Let the exhale all the way out of your body. Let every muscle melt towards the floor if you can. If there are places that don't know how to relax, that are still tense, just take a breath into those spaces. Give a little gratitude for all the hard work they do and move on. It's okay. You're not here to fix anything. From the book that we're reading from, as you practice, I encourage you to ask yourself, what would you like to breathe into creation? wind carries with it the power of creation and the floating seeds and the breath of new life. How can you harness this element into your life? How do you want to step into the flow of what the wind is calling you to do? So this new moon, like I said, is in the sign of Aquarius, a sign of air, light, logic, consciousness, and clear seeing. This also encourages us to be a little out of the box, doing things differently. And this is a sign that tends to challenge the status quo. So can you envision a world more aligned with what you want? I challenge you. It's not an easy time, perhaps, for you to envision, hopefully, which is why it's so important to do so. You might also ask yourself as you take a few more breaths here, what makes you different? Aquarius is a sign of uniqueness, of standing out. What makes you stand out? What unique energy do you bring to this world? Don't try to only say good things. Just what makes you different. This is a sign, a time of really stepping into our authentic selves. And as you let and exhale all the way out, feel the emptiness again that's created every breath you take. You get that fresh start. A chance to start again. This new moon is supported by a trine to Jupiter. So this moon is in Aquarius and it's trined. It's in an sort of an aspect. So this just means it's in a relationship with Jupiter. It's being affected by Jupiter. And that is a planet of abundance. So efforts at this time are laced with good luck. So maybe there's been something you've been envisioning for years and you're feeling called to maybe step toward that. I think that is wise intuition if you're feeling some of that. If you're not, that's okay too. One breath at a time, right? Take in what's coming. Take it all in. Keep letting go and welcome what comes next. So we're going to move from our child's pose towards a shoelace position. So if you know and love pigeon pose, feel free to go there now. I don't always teach pigeon in group classes because it's not always the most supportive for knees. And I want to show you a pose that can give you all of the benefit without as much of the risk. So feel free to go to pigeon if you know and love it. Otherwise, we're heading to our back and we're going to find a shoelace position. And yeah. Okay, I'm going to go out on the bed because it'll be easier for me to show the rest of the stuff. So, shoelace position. Hi, Bodhi. Oh, we don't need that open anymore. It's cold now. Okay, so shoelace is a position where, like in pigeon pose, we're getting to this gluteal area in the outside of the hip, our piriformis, and this IT band. And it's an area where a lot of people are really tight, so they feel like they need to really pull on that. And what happens when you pull on something that's already really tight, something that's designed to protect the joints, is it's going to pull back, and we create more tension with that. So don't try to stretch anything here, especially when we're talking with such important joints as our knees and our ankles that have to support our whole body. Okay, so take it easy. You might need to stretch out. I'm sorry, Bodhi, you're going to have to move a little. Thank you. You stretch out your lower leg a little bit to get the top leg on top. So we're going to just cross the ankle and put it on top of the other knee. We're going to flex our ankle back to protect the knee. And then we're going to start to pull that lower leg closer to us. You might not. You might be at your limit, okay? You might even want to back off a little bit. Find where you can be soft and not full of tension, okay? And if that's down here, this is really great. You can play with this and maybe rock side to side and see if you can settle more of that grounding energy. If it's easy enough to bend that lower leg and pull it closer in, this might be a great place to stay. This knee may or may not open up very far. It's okay if it doesn't. You might put a hand here, and if that feels good, or it might just kind of be tucked in. Whatever feels good, whatever is okay for your knee and your hip, trust that. Don't force anything, just let it be. Know that just taking the shape is already giving you a lot of good freedom in this space, even if you don't feel it yet, okay? There's some depth here that may not show up in your feeling experience if you're not a very sensitive person, or that may show up a little bit more internally. So take a nice big breath, let it all out. You could stay here if it's too easy, or if you need to feel more, if maybe things are settling and you're ready for more, you can start to lift that lower leg up. You could put a block underneath this foot. So this might rest here and just get a little bit more traction here without using your arms. Or you could take your arms and reach them towards that bottom leg. So I'm coming inside of this hole and outside of this leg, and maybe grabbing the leg, maybe grabbing my pant leg, my thigh, whatever I'm able to reach. Maybe if I'm really flexible like me, if you're really flexible like me, you can lift that bottom leg and hold on to the knee. This is not a goal. You're not trying to get this deep, so don't worry if you can't go here. Wherever you are is the perfect pose. So take a big breath into that leg. As you exhale, take notice of your shoulders as well. Again, we have so much mobility, so we can take the arm out of its joint just to reach things. Can you hold that arm in a way that it's still pinned down and close to the ground, shoulders nice and open, chest open? Taking about 5 or 6 more big breaths here. You might direct that breath down in towards that sit bone or into that hip joint, wherever else you are feeling it. Adding some ankle circles with your other foot if that feels good. Maybe enjoying a little stillness if you don't get many opportunities for that. Letting each breath out all the way. Not only does this focus space in our hip where we often feel tension in the muscles, this can also give a little bit of space into that low back area. So take a nice big breath into that space between your lowest rib and the top of your hip bone, if you can picture that, or just breathe into your low back. And then we're going to set our lower leg down gently. Stretch it out. And let that leg just rest in a figure 4 shape here, if it feels good. You could also just stretch both legs out. Take your time finding a neutral position. So maybe both legs stretch out. Maybe you bend both knees and rock them like windshield wipers. Maybe your feet come together and you let your knees fall open in a bound angle shape like a butterfly. Take a few breaths in the center here. We've just taken the hips in 2 really different places, so we want a chance for the hips to meet each other in the center before we go in the other way. Second side might not match the first, that's okay, so take it one step at a time. That lower leg is going to go a little lower. Top foot comes on top. Don't mind my dirty feet. Coming on up. Just finding where you can find ease. If you feel like you have to fight it or hold it to be there, back off. There is not only nothing wrong with staying in a beginning part of a pose, there's often something a little bit more advanced about knowing your limits and knowing when to pause and stay in one place rather than pushing. So maybe staying here, maybe that lower leg comes on top of a block, maybe you're reaching it up, top ankle is flexed. One thing I didn't mention on the first side is that flexing that top ankle often means we also flex the toes and the top of the toes. Can you keep this ankle flexed in this 90-degree shape, but let your toes stay soft? So the top of the foot is not working, the action actually comes from the shin. Finding your version of this, shoulder blades as flat on the back as they can be. If you were in pigeon, you would think mostly of your chest staying open. Let the breath travel into those spaces that feel a little pressure, that feel a little tightness. If you feel a lot of pressure or a lot of tension, you want to back off. That's the practice. Expanding those limits, but honoring them. Take about 3 more deep breaths here. Maybe adding some ankle circles on the bottom. The head might be gently rolling side to side. What can you do to just find greater ease throughout the arms, and the jaw, the eyes? Stay as long as you need to feel complete on this side. Once you feel balanced, slowly releasing into some neutral shape. Again, maybe bound angle. Actually adding your figure 4 first. Maybe giving some dog cuddles if you've got a dog there to support your leg. Thanks, Bodhi. Taking your time, finding your neutral shape, and stretching your legs out. We're going to take a supine leg stretch, add wind relieving pose. And so I have a strap. You may not have a strap. If you have belts, that could work. Any towel, a towel could work. If you don't have a strap, don't worry. You can just grab your pant leg or your thigh and stretch the leg long. Don't hyperextend that knee. So if your legs get really, really straight or even bend a little backwards, keep a soft bend in there. I promise that's actually going to give you more stretch, even though it feels like you want to push it, okay? If you have a strap, you could loop the toes, the balls of your toes up and hold on. Arms staying on the back, not letting the shoulders come up. So shoulder blades flat, chest open. Leg might be low, so it doesn't have to be high. Just kind of giving that ankle a little bit of traction. If the hands get tired of gripping here or you feel a strong grip, you might wrap the strap in the hands, and then you don't have to hold on so hard. Check in again with the roof of your mouth. Make sure you're not holding on there. And just imagine the heel gently growing a little longer. So slow, as slow as a plant grows. So it might take a few days to see the change, but that heel slowly reaching up, up, up towards the sun. Slowly bend that knee, pulling that thigh bone towards the floor. Starting to bring that knee in. I'm going to pull the knee as close as I can towards my armpit. I'm really hypermobile, so I can actually get it almost all the way in there. If your knee is still out here, that's okay. Doesn't matter how it looks. Just as much as it feels, can you pull that knee as close as you can towards your armpit? It's just the direction we're going, okay? I'm going to release my strap. You could keep it on there, but I'm going to hold my knee. Wind relieving pose. This is just designed to put a little pressure on the digestive tract. I demoed with my right leg for the video camera's purpose, but if I was wise, I would have started you with your left leg. So if you're just kind of walking into this, maybe start with your left leg with the wind relieving. We can always switch sides with the leg stretch. The reason for that is your ascending colon is on your left side, and the descending colon, meaning out. Ascending colon, meaning coming up, so is on your right side. So, long story short, you want to clear space before you push any more through. So, always clearing your left side if you can first. Luckily, I didn't eat right before this. Find an outstretched position. Give the legs a chance to just rest heavy. Notice if the legs feel different from one another. No judgment, no expectation. They might just be different. We might all feel different things. And then we're going to strap up or grab that other leg and reach it upwards. So reaching through the heel, keeping a soft bend in that knee, maybe clasping the hands behind the thigh or grabbing your pant leg. And flexing that ankle, reaching through the heel, maybe strapping up. Remember, as we flex the ankle back, can you let your toes relax? It's a little tricky. You might start to feel the relationship between your pelvic floor and the roof of your mouth and your tongue and your foot when you play with that. If you don't worry. Give your hands all the support they need, maybe looping the strap. Make sure your shoulder blades are flat on your back. And then can you let everything get as heavy as it can be? So not holding anything up, but using gravity, using your strap, or using that connection with the thigh to just let everything get heavy and create traction. Maybe pulling the arms out of the shoulders a little bit. Imagine your heel like a laser beam or like a little flower starting to grow out of the soil. So slow. Heavy in the head. Heart heavy in the back side of the body. All the organs settling in the back side. And then when you feel complete with the back side of the leg, we're going to bend that knee and bring it in towards the armpit. Maybe releasing your strap, holding onto the knee. And breathing into that belly space. Maybe putting a little pressure onto the belly with your thigh. Finding a bound angle shape to finish this part. So letting your feet touch one another and then the knees just fall open. This may not feel super easy, so if you want to put some blocks underneath your thighs so that they don't fall too far open, or some blankets, that might feel good, or just let the legs stretch long, whatever feels easy. Finishing off with one last pose before our Shavasana. If you don't have a block, you might just take a blanket or a pillow and put it underneath your hips with your knees bent. And just giving, it doesn't have to be very high, the hips don't have to make a huge bridge, you're just letting the hips come up off the ground a little bit, so maybe a blanket. If you have one of these little blocks, that can be nice. You got regular yoga blocks. I usually like to put 2 side by side, like a king size bed rather than a twin size bed, just to have more support. And as I lift up, notice I'm not letting my weight shove into my neck. I'm really putting my shoulders down. It's a little trickier on the bed, but I'm really making sure that the weight is in my shoulders and the weight doesn't land into my neck bones. So lifting up, putting the weight into my feet and my shoulders, letting the blocks come underneath, and then letting the weight of my hips settle onto those blocks. Knees might fall together. You might adjust your feet to find more ease. You could let everything get heavy here. Just resting for another minute before we finish off our practice. You can keep resting like this. If you want to add a little more benefit into this, only if it's easy, you could let your legs just float up towards the ceiling. Pay attention to the low back and the neck. Make adjustments to make sure the weight stays on the shoulders and the hips. But maybe you just float your legs in the sky like so, just like they're suspended there. Legs up the wall pose. We have arteries that carry the blood away from our heart like a long highway, moving the blood towards the capillaries into the cells. And then when the blood returns towards the heart to carry away all the waste, it moves through veins. And veins are like the little side streets, all the neighborhood streets where there's a stop sign at every block. And so it's not as free-flowing as the arteries where the blood is moving away from the heart. The muscles in our legs help to move the blood back to the heart and help move the blood past each stop sign, each little artery, or each little pocket of each vein. So the more you move your legs, the better your circulatory system is usually going to be. But also we can use a little bit of gravity. We can help the blood return through all those little stop signs of the veins and back to the heart. It is said, I'm not sure by who, so if you know the source of this or you think I'm wrong, feel free to share a source or better information in the comments, but I learned that 10 minutes in this pose serves your organs or gives your organs an equivalent benefit of 1 hour of sleep. So that's really helpful. I wouldn't recommend replacing sleep with this pose, but it can definitely help nourish us as needed. So stay here as long as you like. This is one of my favorite places to be, especially the supported bridge with the feet fully supported on the ground. If your legs are up, it might be a good time to start to come down as we begin to seal up or wind down our practice. But this is your practice, your space. You could just pause the video or let it play out and stay all day if that feels good for you. We're going to seal this practice with what's known as Shavasana. And this is intended to be an alert awareness. So we are meant to use this time to really stay aware and feel all of what's happening. Your mind may drift off, your body may fidget, it's all good. Just keep coming back and practice the stillness and the awareness when you can. So we're going to lift the hips if they are supported by anything here and let them come back down to the earth. Maybe adding a blanket under the knees. That can always help the low back and the neck. So if your neck and low back ever hurt when you're laying on your backside, giving a blanket or pillow under the knees can be a nice touch. You might add a pillow underneath your head. Find a comfortable position for the arms where they are at ease. There is no correct place. Check in again with those 3 fundamentals. I didn't call them that, but we practice them through every class. It starts with grounding. Feel whatever is supporting you here, your blankets, your bed, your pillows, the ground. And let your body receive that support. As you scan from heels all the way up to the head and let every bone get heavy. Bring awareness now to the jaw, roof of the mouth. Let that space spread out, become empty and spacious. Let your tongue relax in your mouth. Let your cheeks and ears drip towards the floor. And let the next inhale fill up the corners of your ribs. Fill up the edges of your belly. Let it all out. Bones heavier and heavier as you exhale. Letting that breath fill you up all the way out. And continuing to feel your breath moving into your belly and all the way out. Taking in all that comes. Letting go of everything you're holding to make space for what is next. As you keep breathing, feeling your body supported by the earth, I invite you to imagine planting seeds. And as your breath keeps moving, as the air and the vayu keeps moving through and around you, plant a seed of hope. Envision a future for the world, planting a seed for the world that you'd like to see. Looking at our handful of seeds, planting another seed for all the living beings. Planting that seed, envisioning a future for all living beings that is in alignment with how you'd like to see the world. Planting a seed for all of your neighbors, near and far. Planting a seed for your country. Envisioning a future for your country that is aligned with what you'd want for this world. Planting a seed for the communities you are a part of. Planting a seed for all those you call family. Planting a seed for your precious, miraculous body. Planting a seed for your wise mind. Planting a seed for your heart. And then picturing yourself as a seed, planting yourself deep in the earth. Allowing yourself to be nurtured and setting intentions as you start to open up and move forward into this coming month, this new year, or not new year, well, yes, so this new moon is also representative of our Lunar New Year. So Happy New Year to those who celebrate. So as we've planted all these seeds, I hope that you can start to see those seeds be nurtured and germinated and harvested, and all the plant growth terms I'm not pro at, but you know what I mean. So you can stay in this shape a little longer if you'd like. Feel free to just keep resting. As we seal practice, I'll share probably my favorite quote in the whole world. If you'd like to seal practice with me in a seat, feel free to start to move a little bit gently, making some motion with your wrists. Maybe stretch your arms and legs long. You might curl up in a ball and rock around a little bit. There's no hurry at all. Cynthia Ocelli said, "For a seed to achieve its greatest expression, it must first come undone. The shell cracks, its insides come out, and everything changes. To someone who doesn't understand growth, it would look like complete destruction." Seedlings, yogis, keep growing, keep setting intentions, keep aligning with the world that you want to see. Thank you for showing up, for putting this time and energy into taking care of yourself, for doing your part to bring greater peace and ease into your own life. I think is the first step to bringing greater peace and ease into our world. So thank you for doing your part. The light, the love, everything else in me sees and honors and is in awe of all of that in you. Thank you. Thank you.